Hello, this is Bruno with Linguistic Team International. In this tutorial, we're going to explore how to create a dotSUB account, how we use dotSUB to translate videos, and the basics on how Linguistic Team International handles video materials. First, let's see how to register a user account on dotSUB. We'll use our favorite web browser to go to dotSUB.com. On the main page, we'll see a register button at the top of the page, which, when clicked, will take us to a registration form. The important fields in this form are the username and password, which will be used to log into dotSUB, and our email address, which we'll use to validate the account. Before submitting the form, we can read the dotSUB terms of use. We then tick the box stating that we agree with its terms, and we can click on Sign Up to complete the registration process. dotSUB will send a confirmation email containing a link that we'll use to validate the account. We'll then be able to log in using the username and password that were provided in the registration form. We need to be logged in order to see which translations are available for any given video. To log in, click on the Sign In button at the top of the page. We then type our username and password and click on Login. dotSUB will then display a clickable menu on top of the page which indicates that we're indeed logged in. Now that we're ready to translate with dotSUB, let's examine the main page for a given video, which contains various sets of panels. On the video panel, we can watch the video with its available subtitles. On the right-hand side of the window, we have a full description of the video. Below that is the interesting stuff for translators, the Translate and Transcribe panel. We'll get access to the translation by selecting the language on the Language menu and by clicking on Translate. If your language isn't present on the list, however, it means that the coordinator for that language decided to give access to the video to particular users, either because the video has entered the proofreading stage and the coordinator wants to monitor access to the video more closely, or simply because it has been fully translated and proofread, in which case coordinators usually give access only to themselves. If the language is available and we click on Translate, dotSUB takes us to the translation page for that video. From here, just like in the main video page, there's the video on the left, except this time we have the subtitle text on the right. In order to translate, all we have to do is to click on the line to translate, input the translation, and type Enter to save it. Notice that it takes some time for dotSUB to validate the translated line, but when it appears in blue, it means that dotSUB saved it as the translation for that line in that language. It goes without a say that anyone with permissions on this video can come back and change the translation at will, but rest assured that the translation is saved from the moment we type Enter. Once we're done, we click on Back to Video or simply close the window. The translation will remain as we left it. As translators work on a given video, dotSUB will display their current progress using a percentage indicator per language, which of course reaches 100% when the translation is complete. Now that we've discovered how dotSUB works, let's examine the translation process here at Linguistic Team International. For any video material entering the system, 2 copies of the video are made, which means we'll always see 2 versions of it when we browse through the LTI official channel. The main copy is what we call the working location. This is the video where all language teams get to work. This is why the link for this video must not be shared, because it usually contains partially translated videos whose quality hasn't always been ascertained. Sometimes an unknown volunteer comes in and starts translating, but his or her presence hasn't been taken into account by the community, and so the quality of the translation is not guaranteed. That is why we have a second copy of the same video that we call the repository location. This is the location where all fully translated and proofread translations are added. The subtitles we see in this version of the video are ready to be shared. What that means for translators is that they will never have to pay attention to these repository versions other than to check whether a translation has been fully proofread. We can go over to the repository location, see the list of translations that are there, and figure out whether a given translation team has completed the project. Now the question is, how do we make the difference between the working location and the repository location? Very simple. The repository location video always contains repository in brackets at the end of its title. Of course, if a given language doesn't appear in the repository location, it means that this language team hasn't finished translating or proofreading it, in which case they might need your help. One last thing, if you're interested in participating in the translation effort, please check out the description section of this video, where you'll find all the resources you need to get started.